Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to do the poem Of Mothers Among Other Things by A K Ramanujan. Of Mothers Among Other Things by A K Ramanujan is a five-stanza poem that is separated into sets of 4 lines or quatrains. These quatrains do not follow a specific rhyme scheme, but there are moments of half or slant rhyme that help to unify the lines. These are seen through the repetition of assonance or consonants. This means there is a repetition of vowel sounds and consonant sounds within one line, and of mothers among other things is a vibrant portrait of the speaker's mother and the way she has moved through the world. The poem begins with the speaker smelling the images of his mother's youth. She was soft, flower like, and silken. That couldn't last forever, though. As she aged, she met with adversity seen through the rain imagery. It tried to tie her up, but she was an eagle and fought through it. But that wasn't the end of her troubles. One very poignant moment in the poem shows the mother, like an eagle, getting one talon trapped in a mouse trap. She lost that finger or talon. The poem concludes with all the images of the previous stanzas come together to depict the mother in her current older state, reaching down to pick a grain of rice from the kitchen floor. The son sees her whole history in this movement. The poetic techniques and literary devices used by Ramanujan in this poem include enjambment, alliteration, zoomorphism. The latter is opposite of anthropomorphism. It applies to moments in writing in which a person is given animal characteristics, when you will see how the mother is compared to an eagle. This is the case of mothers, among other things, especially in the stanzas 3 and 4, as the mother is compared to an eagle. Another important technique that is commonly used in poetry is enjambment. This occurs when a line is cut off before its natural stopping point. It forces a reader down to the next line and the next quickly. You will see how I read the poem very soon. One has to move forward in order to comfortably resolve a phrase or a sentence. The fourth line in the first stanza is a great example of enjambment. Alliteration, which is a repetition of a speech sound in a sequence, occurs when words are used in succession or at least appear close together and begin with the same letter. For example, the phrase crying cradles in the second stanza, tree tasseled in the third stanza, and the words still, sensible, and slowly in the fifth stanza. Let me read the poem. I smell I smell upon this twisted backbone tree the silk and white petal of my mother's youth, from her earrings 3 diamonds. In the first 4 lines of Mothers Among Other Things, the speaker begins by explaining something important he smelled. It was the silk and white petal of his mother's youth. The scent was found on a black bone tree. It speaks to her beauty, youth, and the materials the speaker associates with her. Many of the images in this poem are obscure, but they are closely associated with the senses. For instance, the reference to silk and white petal. Here, these words bring up feelings of softness, images of flowers and the smells associated with them, and a general aura of beauty. This is how the speaker sees his mother's youth. Somehow, he is able to smell it upon a tree he refers to as a black bone. The word blackbone seems more like an adjective than a noun, describing the look of the tree rather than a type of a tree. It contrasts with the youthful images of beauty and softness in the next lines. These lines suggest that the speaker is able to tap into his mother's youth while also seeing her from a contemporary perspective. Perhaps now that she is old and more substantial in his mind, he sees her like his imagined blackbone tree. The fourth line of the stanza refers to her earrings and is enchant. Stanza 2. Splash a handful of needles, and I see my mother run back from rain to the crying cradles. The rains tack and sew. The second stanza picks up somewhat where are the first left off. The syntax or the sentence construction is confusing, making the transition change between stanzas and images complicated. But it is clear the speaker is still comparing his mother as he knows her now to how she was in her youth. Her diamond earrings are part of his handful of needles, another reference back up to the tree. He goes on to speak to his mother's energy and again his youthfulness. He can imagine her running from rain to the crying cradles. Rain is commonly used to refer to negative experiences or general difficulties. This appears to be true in of mothers, among other things, as well. Moving on to the next stanza. With broken thread, the rags of the tree tasseled light, but her hands are a wet eagle's, two black, pink, crinkled feet. The third stanza describes how the rain attempted to use its broken threads to tie her down or sew her up. The progression of her life leads her into difficulties. The light that was originally associated with her becomes harder to maintain. The next two lines describe how her hands are wet eagles. This brings back some of the strength the speaker has previously associated with her. An eagle represents power and, in this instance, strength in the face of adversity. The eagle's feet might be wet, but still they have talons. There are a number of other contrasts in the following lines as the eagle's feet are both black and pink crinkled. Moving on to the last stanza, not last, fourth stanza. One talon crippled in a garden trap set for a mouse. Her saris do not cling, they hang loose, feather of a one-time wing. The fourth stanza is another example of how, with age, the mother's youthfulness and softness were degraded. She experienced other setbacks, such as getting one talon crippled in a garden trap set for a mouse. She was permanently changed, and to this day, as will be stated in the fifth stanza, the speaker can see the impact of this injury. The imagery of the bird is continued in Of Mothers Among Other Things as the speaker references the mother's saris. They do not cling as they might have done in the past, but hang loose like feathers of a one-time wing. She has no longer she is no longer the eagle, the youthful person that she used to be, but parts of her past still exist. Moving on to the last stanza. My cold parchment tongue licks bark in the mouth when I see her four still sensible fingers slowly flex to pick a grain of rice from the kitchen floor. The fifth stanza of Mothers, among other things, brings the description of the mother around the speaker himself. He speaks of his own cold parchment tongue. Parchment, there is a strangeness to this image that connects the eagle like image of the mother to her son. He again taps into the reader's senses to explain how he feels when he sees his mother's four intact fingers. Parchment is a skin of a goat or a sheep prepared for writing. In the olden times, parchment was used like paper to be written upon. Here, however, the word parchment has been used as an adjective for the noun tongue. All the images of the previous stanzas come together to depict the mother in her current older state, reaching down to pick a grain of rice from the kitchen floor. The speaker draws attention to the way her fingers slowly flex. They are sensible and simple in their actions. He sees her whole history in this movement, from her silken soft youth to the rainy troubles of her aging years to her current sensible existence. This much for today. Thank you.